Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of Stop, Look, and Listen. I'm your host, LeTroy Gardner. This week, we have a person that has touched all stages, from presidential inaugurations to Vegas residencies to The Voice. She recently released her latest single, You're Gonna Need Me, remade by a remake of the legendary Dionne Warwick, the Monificent one,
That's
Miss
right.
Monet. How you doing,
Yeah,
Miss Monet?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. It's good to
Oh,
have
man.
you. I watched season 24 of The Voice, so yeah,
Okay.
I was cheering for you.
Oh,
You
thank you
know,
so
I
much.
was like,
They wasn't gonna let me be great.
nah, you was great enough. You was great enough to
That's what, yeah. Well, I always say because I was on Reba McEntire's team. She had to represent for country. I get it. So country won, and
yeah.
everything because she had to, pick country artists and everything. She didn't have to, but they leaned that way. So
Hmm.
but at the same time, I made top 24, and that in itself was a feat. So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
The powerhouse voice. So
thank you.
you're originally from the Bay Area. Just give us a biographical snapshot into who Miss Monet is.
Well, Miss Monet is a Bay Area native, Northern California, Oakland, to be exact, born and raised. And I have been in the industry for quite some time, but it's still, uh, I'm writing it every day though. It's just being rewritten every day and everything, or being not rewritten, but being added to my story every day. And always been here. Just people just now figuring me out and finding me out, and been a supporting vocalist with some of everyone's probably favorite artists, and not even knowing, it was me on those vocals, on some iconic recordings and behind some iconic artists as well. And here I am, finally in my 20 feet from stardom, starting to move it up and come of age and be Miss Monet.
Okay. All right. So I mean, we'll definitely get into that long list of legends that you've touched the stage with, and then
Yeah.
just your approach of, I guess, navigating between background singing and stepping
Mm-hmm.
up to the forefront. But
Mm-hmm.
just continuing with growing up in a Bay Area, like what songs did you sing when you was standing in front of the mirror with the hairbrush, just imitating whoever, whether it was like a Whitney or Aretha or Dion
Right.
or Patty.
Well, well, funny you say that because growing up, I mimicked mostly. I tried to mimic my mother and my grandmother because they were the
Hmm.
first, visual and being, just curation of my voice. Growing up in that environment, my father was a background singer for Marvin Gaye for several years. So Marvin's one of my godfathers, and then my mom coming from a gospel background. My grandparents were gospel promoters, so just having this kind of musical balance, it was always a thing. I was always giving concerts and stuff, but when it came to like some of the people, I started to really, really hone in on and emulate. Ironically, besides my mom and my grandmother, because I wanted to sound like them, but it would be like Tina Marie. Tina Marie. I
Hmm.
was 7 years old when I won my first talent show singing a Tina Marie song, and then years later, Tina Marie comes not only one of my bosses, but a very dear friend and my musical mother. Before her passing, she was my mom in music. But Tina Marie and yes, Whitney Houston, they both was someone I stood was like when Whitney came out, I was like finally someone I can relate to, because there was the
Hmm.
Aretha and all that, but I just felt Aretha at that time growing up, she just seemed like old school to me at that time. Now I'm like, yeah, Aretha, but growing up, I was like, who can I relate to in my da da da? So Whitney was my direct like, yeah.
Uh-huh. Cool. Well, you made me want to switch the vinyl behind me to Tina's because
Hey,
I was
Queen
trying to
Aretha
guess.
though.
I like to predict.
Yeah, Queen Aretha
I,
though. I mean, yeah.
uh-huh.
But yeah,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
emulation and everything. At first emulation would be Tina Marie.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Great. So, like, when did you when did you come to the conclusion that being on stage, whether it was singing, dancing, or acting, was your calling?
Gosh, Mom said when I came out, when I was born, I came out singing probably the highest note ever known to man. It was just always innate in me. It was again, like I said, as a child, I would be in the basement and playing with the vinyl records and giving little concerts to my toys instead of being outside playing with kids. And my mother said, I would watch you the way you would deal with music and the way you would just, how you would handle and how you would just, find yourself always listening, always playing concert, always. She said, you're going to be a singer. She's going to sing. I already know she's going to sing. And I just kind of grew into it. You know what I mean? It was no inkling in my mind that it wasn't something I wasn't going to do. And I think, and everyone in my family knew it. It was just over me. I just always wanted to perform, wanted to dance, wanted to act, wanted to, and when I got into, grade school and high school, of course, you join the choir, you do all the stuff and everything. So it was just always there. It wasn't surprising to anyone in my family.
Right. So what was the first break? Because I think you probably had multiple breaks. So what was the first break to where you were like, I guess you met this individual and, they showed you the ropes, the first artist you sang background for,
Absolutely.
all of that?
Well, as the story goes, I'm 17 years old, turning 18, and 17, turning 18 in September, graduating from high school. And I literally graduated from high school. And, well, let me start over. So the promise was, my mother knew I was going to be a singer. She knew this is what I wanted to do. And she just said, okay, I have one request. Just graduate from high school. Graduate from high school, then you can do whatever you want to do and everything, because I know this is what you want to do. Okay, Mom, that was our promise. Walk stage, graduate, get my diploma. And then literally walked off stage. And 2 weeks later, I was on the plane on my way to Europe for 3 months with Huey Lewis in the news.
Okay.
That was my break.
Wow.
That was my break. And they literally showed me the ropes at such a young age, and I'm so grateful. I always say, if you want to blame anybody about Miss Monet, go blame Huey Lewis and the News. Blame Huey, Johnny Cola, Sean Hayes, Bill Gibson, Huey. Go blame those guys, because they took a chance on a 17-year-old unexperienced black girl from Oakland, California, and took her on the road with them and showed her the world. So I'm so grateful for that, because they really planted seeds in me and implemented, showed me how the business is supposed to be run, showed me, how a group of professionals run. They never made me feel like I was a background singer. They made me feel like I was equally a principal. And that was so important and so grateful for that, because now as an artist, as a band leader myself and everything, when I have my band and everything, lighting people, sound people and everything, all these people matter. And I'm so appreciative and grateful for them, because without them, I can stand on a mic, but if my sound ain't right, y'all can't hear it, right? If the lighting is not right and everything. So Huey Lewis and the News really took a chance on me, and I'm so grateful for that. And that was my break.
Okay. Now I'm kind of curious as far as, obviously in that situation, Huey Lewis and the News found you, but as you've continued to propel yourself in the industry, and you've continued to share the stage with all of these other legends, is it to the point where they're all recruiting you, or are you talking to their management or some of their background singers, establishing relationships? How does that go about?
It was weird because, again, singing with Huey and being, again, totally unexperienced, not knowing, I'm new to the game. So now I'm singing with Huey, and then we would come home off the road, and I would go back to doing my 9 to 5. I would just go back to work. I didn't know, people kept touring, or you look for the next gig, or be sought out and everything. And then a lot of my ending up being with artists was by word of mouth. They were like,
Hmm.
well, we have this girl Monet, and then I was going off of my first name, which is Kenesha, and I was Kenesha Monet, and they were like, we have Kenesha, and da da da, and then, well, hey, I got a call from so and so, and they want to know if you'd be interested and go out. Kenny Loggins is looking for a singer. He's coming to the Bay Area doing a West Coast run, and he needs a vocalist and everything. Would you be interested? Well, yeah, it's Kenny Loggins, of course. Um, then other people come to the Bay. Jonathan Butler's coming to the Bay, and he needs a singer. Da, 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 would you be interested in everything? Sure, absolutely, and everything. Who else? That's how it would come. It was coming word of mouth.
Hmm.
I literally have only done like 2 auditions in my whole career to get me on and hired by. Everything else just kind of came by word of mouth, and that I'm so grateful for, because
Right.
my reputation began to precede me, and everybody was like, no, you call Monet, get Monet, da 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 da, and that's literally how it happened. Like
Hmm.
I thank God for that. That people thought enough of me to say, give her a call. She's your girl. She's who you want. So that's how it just catapulted that way.
Hmm. So, like working across these various genres, I mean, you've
Hmm.
mentioned like the pop music scene,
Hmm.
yacht rock with Kenny Loggins and Michael
Hmm.
McDonald. You have
Hmm.
jazz with
Hmm.
Jonathan Butler, Will Downing. You have
Hmm.
hip hop soul with Queen Latifah, and
Hmm. Hmm.
you got British soul with Soul to Soul. Like it's just such a wide range of genres and even just
Hmm.
styles. Like
Hmm.
how do you adapt? How do you adapt when you work with each artist?
You know, as I was saying earlier, when I was a child and everything, and just going through the crates and looking at the records and how I was having music played around me, grateful to have parents that were lovers of music and lovers of all types of music. So in our home, I would hear Aretha Franklin, I would hear Rufus and Shaka Khan, and then at the same time, I would hear David Bowie, I would hear Led Zeppelin, I would hear Grace Jones, I would hear the Gospel Hummingbirds, I would hear Aretha, I would hear, you know what I mean? I would hear Ella Fitzgerald. They made sure I would hear everything. I would hear Rolling Stones. There was no music, no genre, and especially growing up. Shout out to KDIA radio. Growing up in Oakland, California, that was an AM 1310 AM station that played everything, and that's what I
Hmm.
miss about radio now, because there was no programming per se. They just play good music. So
Hmm.
you can hear Earth, Wind, and Fire, and then after Earth, Wind, and Fire, you can hear, Todd Rundgren. You know what I mean? You could. It was just, and that's how I programmed. That's how I got programmed in music. Fast forward, now I'm in my preteens and teens. Then this thing called MTV comes out.
Yeah.
Now MTV is giving me visuals, and I'm seeing, Flock of Seagulls. I'm seeing Twisted Sister. I'm seeing Deep Purple. I'm seeing Run DMC. I'm seeing Tina Turner. I'm seeing all these music, and that's how it just curated in my head. So as an artist, that's how I think. That's how I
Hmm.
maneuver. There is no genre that I just really don't enjoy singing, because I love music. And when you're a
Yeah.
music head, it doesn't it doesn't matter. And I always wanted to be the type of artist to be able to adapt to whatever I'm given. I mean, I've even sung um, uh, Mexican, I can't think of her name right now off the top of my head, but she was like the Mexican Madonna, and singing in Spanish. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I just wanted to be an artist that was able to adapt and sing everything in every genre, and do it well in everything. And I think I accomplished that.
Okay. I love it. As far as, I guess, with the experience of being a background singer, like, just talk about the pros of doing background singing first, because,
Hmm.
especially nowadays with this generation, they want to go straight from um, posting online to
Hmm.
Beyonce
Uh-huh.
instead of instead
Right.
of paying your dues. So just
Hmm.
talk about why that was beneficial to your career.
Absolutely. Um, Again, it gave me an opportunity to start creating building blocks, to start creating relationships, to understand theory, to understand again. how music works, even though I had an idea. But when you're in a position where you're singing with others and having to understand blend, having to understand singing straight, which is so funny to me because so many people, I can sing, but can you sing a melody line straight? Can you sing straight with no vibrato? Can you,
Hmm.
a lot of people can't do it. A lot of people can't do it, So I was very grateful, and I think a lot of that came from, again, singing in choirs, and then when I started doing a lot of the sound recordings and singing on these records, you're singing with other singers, so you have to own in your ear. That helped a lot. So when you're singing live and singing with other vocalists and everything, you have to know how to just listen. And even as a vocal leader or whatever, you still have to be able to listen. Listen to the other voices, make sure you have your blends there and everything. That's what helps develop you over periods of time. So I'm grateful to have been able to start there and everything, and I enjoy the art of background singing because when you get these voices together and the harmonies and you create these chords with your voice, it's nothing like it. It's nothing like it. So, you really, really want to get in there and understand the art, understand the importance of the voice. The voice is an instrument, like a guitar, like a keyboard, like a horn. Your voice is an instrument and everything. But as a horn, you're not just going to get out there and horn by just, blurt it out. You have to, you have to be able to have some restraint, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
understand, okay, I have this voice. So where in this big picture where my voice be able to support and color the picture as well? So the art of background singing and everything like that, if you understand it, it helps you understand that theory. It helps you, and it strengthens that. So I think it's so important as singers to, if you're not in an environment where you're singing with other people, allow yourself the opportunity to experience it. It'll definitely change your mind and your outlook.
So when did that light bulb moment come on where it's like, you know what, I'm ready to step to the forefront?
It's if day one. It's always been me being up front or me being Monet. But and opportunities, again, like I said, when you get calls from these different people who want you to go come out with them and everything like that, it's like, okay, all right, I'll go over here, and then I'm going to, next thing like when I was with Boz Scaggs, I was with him for 23 years. I didn't expect to be with the man for 23 years, but I was.
Hmm.
And you just kind of get comfortable in that. And that's one thing I'll say as an artist and everything is nothing wrong with doing what you're doing, especially if it's, affording you the opportunity to live your lifestyle, which it definitely has for me. And I'm so grateful for that. But, you have to find that moment to break away and say, okay, it's time to do, especially if that's the desire of your heart. Not every background singer wants to be in the front. I have a lot of friends that are amazing vocalists, and they are so satisfied with just being the supporting vocal. They're like, I ain't trying to do all that. I don't want to be up front. But it's always been the desire of my heart to do it. But, but I enjoy the art of singing, being a supporting vocal as well. But it's
Okay.
been there since day one.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Um, let's get into You're Gonna Need Me. Um,
Oh,
the classic from the icon herself, Dionne Warwick.
mm-hmm.
Um, what led you to choosing that that tough tough classic, the remake? Why did you go with that one?
Wow. Okay, a lot of, probably like most people, we heard the sample first, right?
Hmm.
And I'm a big hip hop head. Like I said, I'm a
Yep.
big music head, but I love hip hop. And there's this show, and they call it Salute the Sample on Rock the Bells Radio, LL Cool
Yep.
J's Rock the
Sirius
Bells.
XM.
Yes,
Hmm.
and Salute the Sample, and they're always talking about the various samples and all that and everything. And I think I heard the sample first, and I think Usher. Usher. It was an
Yeah,
Usher
throwback.
sample, and I was always infatuated with that sample. So I started to research it out, and then I think Salute the Sample did one, and I was like, okay, wait, let me figure this out. When I found out it was Dionne Warwick, I was like, wait, hold up. Alfie Dionne, do you know the way it sounds? Say Dionne, hold up. I ain't never heard Dionne this funky in my life, right? And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
wait a minute. So I really went to research it out, and was like, this whole record that she did in like '72. I was like, when did Dionne get like this? This is the side of Dionne we never really was shown. We've already, and so this was after her Burt Bacharach days, and this song was written by Holland Dozier Holland and Richard Wiley, and I was like, this is a dope song. Like, how come I've never heard anyone do it over? Just the sample, we ain't never really heard. And so coming off of of my last single, Groove With You, that I did with Will Downing, and the success of it, I was telling my collaborator and producer BJ Kemp, like, okay, how do we follow up Groove With You? Like, what do we do? And I said, I have these two songs I want to do over. I always wanted to do over. And he was like, well, what are they? So I told him the two songs, and one of them was the Dionne song. And I said, so if you had to pick, which way you want to go? And he was like, let's do that Dionne. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's the one I wanted to do. Yeah. 'Cause this song has been in my spirit. And I'm like, we got to do this
Right.
song. And I was like, come on, man. And so, but we both said, okay, but if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And I said, well, we got to do it right. You can't mess with it. And I said, the other thing, other than doing it right, we have to be authentic with it too. I said, I want to keep the authenticity of the song. I don't want to take away from it. I don't want to make it so like, okay, it's a new song, but you it don't have the same effect or the feeling. I said, I want us to really mimic, and we replayed everything, all the vocals, just me. We went in there and redid this song, but we studied that song to tilt. Like, I mean, we're both ear hustling, like, where I like
Mm-hmm.
broke the stems down, isolated the tracks. I needed to hear every nuance of the song so I can recreate and make it as authentic as it is. And that's what we did. We really went in there and put it all together, and kept the integrity of the song too, but still allowed me to be Monet with it. And that was our goal, and we accomplished it very well. And I'm so proud of the song. I'm like, just everyone's like, you, yeah. And then when I say it's a Dionne, they're like, wait a minute. When I played it for Will Downing, and he's like me, a big music head, and he was like, "Oh, that's dope." And I was like, "You do know it's a remake, right?" He was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "You don't know it's a remake?" He was like, "No, who did it?" I said, "Dionne Warwick." He was like, "No." Then I played him the original. He was like, mind blown. So it's I'm proud of it, because it's if you know music, you dig in the crates, you kind of know where it came from, but most people don't. So it's introducing them to this other side that Dionne Warwick had, and I'm proud about that as well.
Oh yeah. Like there's this website called whosampled.com. So I go on there all the time. So if there's like a say like off of Kendrick's BNX album, like I'll go through it, listen to the songs. If there's a production that I'm interested in or a sample, I'll go on that website, that portal, and just do my research, do my
Right,
lineage, figure
right,
out where it was originally made, and
right, right,
start listening
right.
to that, add it to my collection. So, yeah, I think I always enjoy just paying homage to the originators. So
Absolutely.
with that, even with your time with the voice, on the voice, is that always a challenge as far as not taking away from the integrity of the song, but also trying to figure out how to put pieces of Miss Monet into the song as well when you do remakes?
Um, I think it can be a challenge, and you have to just go in there and say, okay, what's the best approach that I, again, keep the integrity and authenticity of the song, but be me in it as well. You got to try to find that happy medium. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to underdo it. You just got to try to find a happy medium. And it can be a challenge, to find out and figure out what your way is. But I think that the best way is just, in that approach, is to, if you understand that and say, okay, look, let me sing it or do it plain. Okay, now I have it down. Okay, now where can I kind of tweak it a little bit for me, just so I can be signature in it. And you find your places, and it's about placement. That was one of the things I admired and adored about Luther. Luther understood placement. When he did his remakes and everything, to the point now his remakes, we want his remake more than the other one. You know what I mean? He understood placement. He understood where to and where not to. So that's the thing. You got to know where to and where not to when you're doing, a remake, especially a classic scenario and everything. And so, can it be challenging? It can. But if you understand, you just got to know placement and know where to play stuff and where not to. You'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned BJ Kemp, and
Yes.
you two have worked on Groove with You and Celebrate as well, and
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
said, frequent collaborators. What is it about him that brings out the best in you in the studio?
BJ Kemp. What I adore about BJ Kemp, BJ and I literally, we're both from the Bay Area, and we have this running joke that we grew up together and didn't know we were growing up together, which is ironic for us to meet later, because he was the drummer for my cousins who had a gospel quartet. They were called the Anderson Sisters, and those were my cousins, and he was their drummer. Unbeknownst to me, I had no clue until later on we found out, when we found each other out. We've collaborated vocally and toured together, both singing, being supported vocals for Raphael Sadiq, who's my fam, singing with Raphael, and then other projects we worked on in the Bay Area, like the Park Avenue project, and so trusting and knowing this person who knows and trusts me. It was like a great marriage, because we sit and talk about music, the feeling of music, how someone's supposed to feel, even in our performances. It's like, what do you want to convey in your performance? How you want it to feel? How do you want it to? And we're always talking about that, and have been big fans of just, or big advocates when it comes to real soul music and the feeling, because one of the things that we both desire the most is when you hear something, especially nowadays, is it giving me that warm and tingly, where a lot of the records that we adore, when we say throwback, they give you that yeah, what I mean, certain I still hear right now and just be like, oh, I want to cry because it just feels so good,
Hmm.
And we always talked about that. And so when it came time for us to start working together, he was like, Mo, I have these tracks, and he had sent me like 5 songs, and it was right before I went on The Voice, and I listened to him and loved him, and I was like, okay, but it never really kind of got to him, because Voice had me in Voice World. Never got to him. And then he started to work on his stuff, and then he came with the song, and then he presented it to me, and I sung on it. And then after I completed The Voice, I kind of revisited the song, because I felt like I wanted something to represent how I felt about being on The Voice, which was Celebrate. And he was like, okay, well, let's go back in here and make it your anthem, your theme. I said, absolutely. And that was our first time getting in the studio together, and it just worked. Our he understands we said we have our language. He gets me, and he knows me as a vocalist. And what I appreciate about BJ is he's not afraid to say, hold on, Mo. I'm a creative, and I can go, and he'll be like, pull it back. He produces me, even down to, what to say, how to say, and I can say stuff, but he'll explain it. This is why we want to say this, or this is what emotion you want to feel, and I'm like, you right, yep, okay, you're right, okay. And after we do it, it's like, yeah. So it's so good to have someone who understands your language and knows you as the artist, what you're trying to convey to your listeners, so they get an understanding. So the marriage with BJ Kemp on these last three songs have been amazing, and he's family, so it's a joy to go through this experience and this journey with him as well.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Todd McLean provides periodontal and dental implant services in 2 convenient locations. They offer over a decade of experience treating patients, and appointments can even be scheduled in the evenings, weekends, or early mornings. Give them a call in Chapel Hill at 919-537-9774 or in Durham at 919-484-8338, or visit them online at gumsandimplants.org.
And it seems like if you're putting together a project, kind of like back to the old days, like you were saying, where the music, solicited emotion, and we can remember what we were doing when the song came out 35 years ago. Do you think that could be attributed to working with that same producer throughout, and just being able to hone in, like Brandy with Rodney Jerkins, or everyone that LA and Face have worked with, Usher and Karen White,
Yeah.
Teddy Riley with Bobby and all of that. So do you think that's the case with you and BJ, is the fact that you two are working together and you can put together a whole body of work?
I think so. I think when you think of like Michael and Quincy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
You get with someone who just kind of gets you as an artist, and it helps develop and create your sound, your being, your entity per se. BJ and I have started to develop and do that and everything. And I know that if I say, okay, B, I'm thinking, he'll be like, all right, okay, let's work on, let's get it and everything. And not to say other producers I haven't worked with don't give me the same thing, because I think each producer I work with has given me, what I wanted out of it. I go back to when I think about my first thing I released called At This Moment, which was produced by Randy Imada, who currently has a #1 single out with Eric Benet right now. So shout out to Randy. But each producer gives me a certain thing. But with BJ understands that grit of Miss Monet. He brings that part out. He brings out the element of the, as I say, I'm a soul artist, and not soul by genre, but soul by feeling. BJ helps me accomplish that. So he's my Quincy Jones, he's my Teddy Riley right now and everything. But he's helping me curate the Miss Monet sound that is becoming to be consistent, because it's about being consistent with the body of work that you do. So we're accomplishing it, and I'm excited about what's to come next.
Mm-hmm. All right, so tell us about how you got the Las Vegas residency, and then, like, similar to the question just now with BJ Kemp, the advantages of being on that same stage and knowing the acoustics and the spots and just the familiarity of it all, like just the advantages of doing a residency.
Well, the advantages of doing residency is the fact that you can recreate every time. Similar to, I now understand the desires, and it's a bucket list of mine, but when people do Broadway, every performance is, they have the opportunity to recreate themselves over and over and over again. So last night's performance won't be the same as tonight's performance, won't be the same. It depends on how you're feeling, what emotions you have, what you're going through, what has happened to you that day. Anything can erupt within and allow that performance to be, based off of what you're dealing with at that moment. So the cool thing about having the residency and doing that is being able to just recreate every week that those emotions, that scenery, that show, and strengthen it as it goes. Impromptu, you don't know what you're gonna get. It can be planned, but you don't want it to be. You want it to just be natural. You want it to just come out. So that's the joy of being able to have that, because you have the opportunity to do it again next week or tomorrow, whatever, and it helps you as you grow as an artist or as you grow within your craft, it helps you own it even more so and develop it, because we're constantly creating, right? So you're constantly creating and developing. So having this opportunity where you can continue to build is always a positive thing. So I enjoyed doing the residency and having it and creating a space where people could see Miss Monet in various lights. You know, I could, because when I first did it, you know, it was called the Soul of Jazz, and I was calling it an interpretation of my interpretation of jazz, which was, you know, a little mix of everything, you know. So that's the dope part about it, just being able to just consistently create and recreate in the process.
Right. All right. So you just mentioned Broadway as like a bucket list stage for you to touch.
Yeah.
What other stages or collaborators are you feeling like you need to knock out before your career is over?
Gosh, it would have been dope. I had the opportunity to meet him and sit with him, and he wouldn't let me leave. Quincy Jones would have been dope to work with him. Missed out on that one. But I would love to collaborate and work with Annie Lennox is one, and Sting is another. Those are
Okay.
two people I would just, man, I could just only imagine, because they're great storytellers and writers, and they both elude a certain, you know, you just becomes transfixed in their music, you know, and you're in those journeys and everything. And so, you know, I could only imagine me vocally doing the same thing, you know, and in a collaboration. So those are dream collabs I would love to do, but it would have been so dope to just be in a studio with Quincy Jones and see what that would have been like, you know.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping you would say like Raphael, because I just one he's like Tony is so high on my list.
Uh-huh.
Like I interviewed Don Robinson a few years ago, and I was just telling her like how it's like Raphael's an enigma, and he's underrated. Like he doesn't get the credit he deserves as far as just what 35 years, you know, nearly 40
Yeah.
years of
Yeah.
just crafting amazing work. So like,
Yeah. I guess for me, I think a lot of people would expect Ray Raphael because, but that, and it's funny because, you know, he is someone, but he's someone I work with all the time. He's my family. You know what I mean? His first cousin his first cousin is my godbrother. So I grew up with them. You know what I mean? To have them just, and so always singing. They let me be in the Tonys. So I was the only girl that they allowed to come in the Tonys and the tour. And so imagine being the only girl with about 12 guys.
uh-huh.
You know, growing up in that environment. And then, did the Tonys, did the House of Music recorded on that. And then, you know, when I left, did that, you know, I started working with Ray. I was always in the studio with Ray and everything. I was, because that's my cousin, literally. You know what I mean? And when we left that and then started working on the Lucy Pearl record and doing that and then coming in and recording. And it was funny because I was already being with Ray, but then Dawn and I started working together. So it was just like, boom, we're all here. So I always say I like the unofficial fourth member of Lucy Pearl because I did all the vocal arrangements and the writing as well. You know, so Don't Mess With My Man and Dance Tonight, and all those arrangements and all this stuff. So that whole record. You know, and then coming off of the Lucy Pearl stuff, and then when Ray started doing his stuff, I was supporting vocal on that as well. So it's funny. I guess because he's my family, I don't take it for granted. I don't take him for granted, but it's just like that's a given for me. You know, so
Right.
you know, yeah. But in retrospect, BJ Kemp, going back to BJ, is like somewhat, I would say, that's his idol, of course. That's his mentor as far as musically and producing and everything like that. And even recent Ray, I was talking to Ray and he was like, you know, saying how proud he was of BJ, that he's getting in and he's doing his thing like that. So, you know, BJ always plays his stuff to Ray to get his approval, like, man, how you feeling? And he gives him, like, do this, da-da-da-da. So, you know, we're all intertwined and everything. So,
Right.
yeah.
Cool. What's something about you that people would find most surprising?
How crazy I am. How crazy I am. They'd be like, Mo, you are a nut. I wouldn't, because they see the singer and they see the diva and her, as I always say, you see her.
Uh-huh.
But when they get to meet me and they were like, "Oh, you mad cool, you crazy," and I'm like, "Yeah, this is really me." There's Miss Monet, and then there's just Mo. What up, Mo? So I think that kind of surprises people because I think they have this thing that I'm gonna be like, and I'm totally not her. So
Yeah, stuck up
yeah.
and demanding everything how you want it, where you want it, when you want it,
Oh
or
man,
you're gonna get a tongue lashing.
all that. It's funny. I did a theater show earlier this year, my first produced theater show, and they were like, what do you want on your rider? And then I was like, just some water maybe? And they were like, that's all you want? And I was like, I don't need much. I don't need it. And they were like, oh my God, you should see some of the riders we've gotten and requested, must have white towels and white candles and all that. I was like, it ain't that serious. It's really not, Them white candles ain't gonna change me singing on that stage or not. So yeah, but I'm like probably one of the most down to earth people and just a nut. And I think when people meet me and they're like, oh my God, and she's crazy. So yeah, that I think that surprises people the most.
Right. So like how do you maintain your voice? Like what do you do to keep it from like going through those periods of a dead voice, like
Ooh.
SZA and Adele and others have
Yeah, it's
experienced?
rest. Rest is important. Rest is important. And then, especially with me living here in Las Vegas, in the desert, hydration. Gotta stay hydrated. So rest and hydration are the two key factors for me. Um, your body will tell you slow down. Your body will say it's time to shut down, and you have to listen to it. There's oftentimes you want to push, but you gotta know when I feel my voice is tired, time to shut down. And you gotta know your instrument. Your instrument will alert you. Hey, ma'am, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. You know, but it can go the mile and it'll do what you need it to do as long as you take care of it. And like I said, the main thing is rest and hydration. So, water, all the stuff, a lot of people are like, the teas, yeah, all that works, whatever you need for you and everything. But rest and hydration are just the key. It's a must. And know your instrument. Don't push it. Don't make it do no more than it can do for you, because you don't want to break it. And that's how I'm able to maintain, withstand. A lot of people's like, you can sing all night. I can sing all night, but I understand my body and I know I'm conditioned to do so. But I also know when I'm done, and I'm done. That's it. Quiet. So.
Mm-hmm.
And
You
regular
also, oh, go
checkups
ahead.
with your ENTs. You make sure you keep it in checkup. Go see your ENT. Go fight. Yeah, stay on top of that.
Right. So you also you did some podcast hosting as well. Let's talk about it. How did that come about?
Talk about
And
it.
are you planning on doing it again in the future?
Yeah, I gotta bring it back. I did. It started out so I came off of The Voice, and every Tuesday, it was a Monday and Tuesday, they would show the performances, and then on Tuesday they would do make the decisions and the results show and all that. And it started off me on that Tuesday doing it so we could talk about what's going to happen tonight and everything, on The Voice and all the stuff. And then I would start talking to my colleagues and friends and people I knew. And then I started seeing people were interested in wanting to hear about just everybody, all my friends that I just naturally know. Started having these conversations. And then it just grew into this thing. Talk about it. Let's talk about it. And I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. You know, 'cause I was a radio personality here in Las Vegas, and it just kind of opened up the door. And I said, because eventually I would love my own talk show. You know, I was like, if Jennifer Hudson can have a talk show and Kelly Clarkson, Miss Monet can have a talk show too. Okay, I think I would be awesome. So, you know, it just turned into this thing, and it just kind of grew. And I was like, wow, I didn't know people were really checking it like that till I was like, people are really checking for it. So I do plan on bringing it back. I wanted to bring it back earlier this year, but of course, scheduling for me has gotten crazy because I'm a principal artist on the Smooth Jazz Cruise, and I hadn't been able to kind of bring it back around to just really, really sit down and format it. And then I wanted to check out various formats that I can use to present it so it could be seen in a different light. But I just recently did one with BJ a couple weeks before we did just a special edition for the new single, and it was a success to do. So I plan on bringing it back.
Good.
Got some people to talk to.
Yeah, I mean, I always like the podcast where it's almost like the artist or taking us behind the scenes and pulling back the curtain and showing us the thought process behind their creations, and then talking to those that either they've collaborated with or admire.
Yes.
It's like those are always good conversations to me.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
bring it back.
Thank you.
So, Optimistic by Sounds of Blackness is my favorite song of all time.
Yeah.
And whenever I'm dealing with some hardship, like that's the perfect elixir. Tell me about a time when like you felt like giving up or just feeling like things weren't moving fast enough and you persevered until a blessing started flowing.
I don't know if I ever really had a moment where I just said, you know what, enough. I think probably like everyone else at that time when COVID hit, as artists, we were trying to figure out what are we supposed to do, especially when touring and doing shows and everything is all that we do. And now we're in this position, in this situation where we can't do anything. We can't tour, we can't create, we can't do all these, things that we naturally are known to do. And it was a weird, like, wow. And then I start seeing people, do the little shows on Facebook Live and doing the stuff. And then you start seeing everybody do the little collaborations with the songs and all the stuff. I did a couple of them. And we figured out as a community how to at least keep our creative selves together. But at that time, I was just kind of like, what is it that I want to do? Like, I mean, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what I need to do. But God, how am I supposed to do it? My father had just passed, and I was just so, I think, more concerned with my family at that moment. What are we having to do as a family? Because it was a sudden passing, totally unexpected. And so that was a moment when I was like, I don't know, maybe I need to figure out something else, because, God forbid anything ever happens again, music is not going to save me. I just saw it just be totally taken away from me. I had a whole tour scheduled for the year, just gone. What do you do? So I think that was the moment I was kind of questioning what do you want to do? How you want to do it? And everything. And then having a conversation with my mother. My mother was like, well, she said, you'll figure it out, but you sing and it's healing and it's therapeutic. And she said, that's just who you are. And I was like, but is it making sense? Is it transcending in the way that I need it to and everything? I'm looking at artists fall apart because of this scenario we're in. How do you move on from that? How do you, as she said, you just continue to create. You just continue to be. And I was like, okay. And then I think what made me a believer again was when I got an email saying I had just been selected to represent the United States at the World Expo in Dubai. And I was like, what? And at that moment, I was like, okay, this is what I need to do. And maybe this is God's way of saying, hold on, just stay patient. Stay the course. Don't give up. You have work to do. Putting that show together, going over to Dubai as an independent artist and headlining. And asked my mom again, I said, well, what am I supposed to... Now I'm kind of not doubting myself, but just trying to understand the rhetoric from me. How do I make it make sense? I'm not Beyonce. I'm not the Rihannas. I'm Miss Monet. Are they going to get me? Are they going to understand me? Because I'm about to be not on just this stage, but on a world platform stage. What am I supposed to do with this? Well, I did what I did. My mother said, just go be Monet. Got out there and did my thing for a week. And every night I'm seeing these crowds of people just lose it and mind blowing. And I was like, okay, God, thank you. You just gave me confirmation. You just showed me why it was important for me not to give up. I came home after that experience and I sat in silence for like 3 days to just really bask in what just happened to me. And at that moment, I realized that my singing and my career, what I do, is no longer just my career. It became my ministry at that moment. And in your ministry, you don't give up on your ministry because your ministry is needed. And that's when it turned for me. So at that moment, like I said, COVID was the moment where I was kind of questioning what to do, what angles. But that one scenario shifted my whole way of thinking and being. And here we are now.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful story.
Thank you.
Yep. Wow. What's next for you besides You're Gonna Need Me?
What's next? Continuing to perform. I'd love to get out and be more present so people can associate not just the face, but the artistic persona with the songs that they're hearing, and being able to see people and actually give them what they're hearing. So I would love to get out and tour more. Of course, singing with Will Downing, I'm doing my thing with him. But just more Miss Monet stuff, more of bringing that to fruition. A full record. I keep going back and forth in my head with it, 'cause I'm like, and BJ's like, we halfway there, Mo, anyway. And I guess because, the way the industry is right now, it's like, if you're not TikToking and doing the TikTok dances and all the stuff, it's a very weird dynamic, with streaming and all that. And I'm like, are people still buying records? Are they still, and that's probably why I've just been throwing out singles and trying to test the waters a little bit, and on that, because so I'm still back and forth in my head with it, but it's going to happen. So a complete Miss Monet record down the pipeline, and like I said, my dream and aspirations of Broadway, I have that in the back. I have that going on. I'm working on manifesting that, and just being Miss Monet. Try to get that talk show.
No, you got it. Like, I mean, honestly, just from like I said, watching you on The Voice, it's like you just illuminate. Like,
Thank you. Thank you.
Like you sound good, and I think people would just be drawn to whatever you have to say.
Thank you. I hope so. I got a lot to say. Yeah, I got a lot to say.
Well, you've been on the road with everybody, so you have a lot to say. You've
God,
seen and done a lot.
everybody,
Hmm.
everybody. My mother says, "Do you?" She's when are you gonna start writing this book? And I'm like, Ma, she said, you need to write your book. Write your book. And it's funny, a dear friend of mine, a manager, he just completed his book, and I asked him, and I said, what made you start? Like, and he kind of told me how I just kind of sat and with a recorder and just kind of start talking about my life and everything. And he said, the next thing you know, I'm pages in and did it. I was like, he said, just start, Mo. And I'm like, I got to tell my story. I got to tell my story. My mother said, you have so much to tell. And so you've been with everybody, and how many people, can honestly say they didn't been with everybody, like everybody. There's no genre that I have not touched, literally,
Hmm.
you know. And I said, yeah, it's been a beautiful, illustrious career thus far, and I'm still writing it. That's what's crazy for me. So,
Has there been a gig that you had to turn down
mhm.
because you were already booked to work with another artist?
Yeah, Lauren Hill.
Oh wow!
hmm Lauren Hill.
During the Miss Education or like
It was
during her
thereafter.
current touring run? Oh,
It
okay.
was a little there. This was in I want to say I'm still living. So this was like in 2009,
Hmm.
2008 ish, nine. Yeah, Lauren Hill. And
Okay.
long story short, heard me saying, wanted me to tour with her and everything, but they wanted exclusivity. She wanted me to just only be with her, and I was singing with Tina Marie and Faith Hill at the time, and I was like, I can't give you that. So I said, well, I respectfully decline.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm. Well, I mean, she's always on the road now, and maybe an opportunity will present itself. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of those things. You can't leave Lady T or the Queen of Country behind. So
I
I
mean,
get it.
you got Tina Marie and Faith Hill. It's like,
Hmm.
ah.
You're good. You're doing good. All right, Miss Monet, go ahead and plug your socials, plug where we can get You're Gonna Need Me, and dig into the rest of the catalog.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I always say start with MissMonet.com. That's MSMONET.com. That's my website. And all the singles, all the music is there, all the information, who I am, my story, everything is there at MissMonet.com. You can follow me on IG, because I'm a hoot on IG as well, at THEE, Miss Monet, MSMONET. You can find me there, and Twitter, or X is it called, at Miss Monet. On Facebook as Miss Monet, or you can input Moniacs, which are my fans. Moniacs, let's go, Moniacs. And yeah, I'm there. Holla at you. You follow me, I follow back. Oh, and TikTok too. TikTok. Miss Monet on TikTok. So that's so fun.
Yeah.
It's amazing that here we are, and it's all about the social media, outlets and the pools and everything, and followers here. How many followers you have there?
Hmm.
Da 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 da. And I recently had an industry head tell my manager, basically, it's all about the followers now. They want to know how many followers they got. They're signing people contingent on the followers that they have. No more artist
Yeah.
development.
I mean,
No more artist development. How many followers do you have? How many? That's how we see in these songs. And people are on TikToks and they put on the songs because they're blowing up and they're going viral. Think about that song "Million Dollar Baby." Million dollar
hmm
baby, don't ask me.
and now he's probably gonna have to recreate that same song over and over again in order to stay in the game. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm not a huge fan of social media, so God
Yeah.
bless you when it comes to staying on top of all of that. But yeah,
Sometimes I say it all the time. I'll be like, if I wasn't Monet, I wouldn't be on this stuff like this. You know,
yeah,
but
it's
you got
it's
to
so
do it.
toxic, so
You got to
toxic.
do it. It is.
All right, well,
Oh,
you
yeah.
keep smiling, keep shining, keep keep killing these stages. You and BJ.
Thank you.
Like I said, I still want you and Ray in the studio to give us something.
I'm gonna get
Um,
something for Ray. Trust me. There's a song like I recorded with Ray. We had did it was a demo we did for Shaka Khan,
mhm.
and when I recorded it back in the day, I just told Ray, I said, if you never use this song, if she don't take the song, I want this song. So even to this day, I'm like, you still got my song? He said, girl, I got to go dig in the crates for that. I could just recreate it. But I was like, well, that's the first song I'm going to need from you. He said, you got it, Momo. You got it, Momo. It's all good. So, and everything. So shout out to my big cuz, Raphael, Charlie Ray. What's up? I'm going to get my song.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
MissMonet.com. Like I
Yes.
said, get your hands on the remake of You're Gonna Need Me.
You're going to need me.
And Miss Monet, thank you for your time today.
I appreciate you. Thank you for your time and again creating this platform for artists like myself to come on and tell our stories.
Yeah, anytime. And yeah, we're looking forward to the podcast coming back. So,
Okay.
I'll keep
I'll
my
bring it back.
eyes and
Just
ears
because you
open
said
for that.
you want to bring it back, okay, I got to run it back.
Yeah, you got it. You know you got it. All right, Miss Monet, thank you for your time. And for
You're
Stop,
welcome.
Look, and Listen, I'm your host, LeTroy Gardner. See you next week. Peace and blessings.